Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Christy and I hope y'all are having a fabulous day. It's noisy in the background because the puppies are playing and Pablo's trying to kill his Santa Claus toy. Today is going to be a little bit of a different kind of video. Still Idaho 4 adjacent. But I want to talk about Ashleigh Banfield and her sources and her reporting lately. There's been a lot going around about it. I don't know how you feel about it, but I just thought we would go over it today, just kind of for something different. Shirt of the day. I got Steve's Squad today. If you've ordered merch, I'm supposed to be getting a delivery today, so hopefully I can get that out to you soon. But let's dive into this whole Banfield thing. So anytime I hear somebody say sources close to the investigation or, something to that effect, my mind, when I hear sources, automatically go to assault. Take it with a grain of salt. If we don't know who these unnamed sources are, you can't always trust them. But when it gets to be problematic is when a reputable news source is quoting these sources. Now, I love Brian Kohberger on News Nation, and by connection, watched Banfield because he was on her show a lot. Usually when he was going to be giving a report from whatever location he happened to be at, it would be on Banfield. So I've always kind of, had faith in her, just vicariously, I guess, because I have faith in Brian Kohberger. And mostly, I feel like she's a good reporter. Things kind of started to change, though, when the whole interview with Xana's mom came out. You guys know what I'm talking about. When her mom looked wrecked and was in that car, and it was hard to watch. And things have just kind of changed since that whole thing. So I don't know if it's to kind of keep the story out there, to keep the story alive or whatever, but nearly every night lately we hear from Ashleigh Banfield that sources have revealed to her or sources have told News Nation, and it's something about the Idaho investigation. And you don't see any other news outlets reporting this, and she always claims, this is an exclusive and things like that. And on YouTube, creators, we get accused of clickbaiting and things like that. And it's kind of along the lines of that, in my opinion. So I just want to go over some of her breaking, like these big revelations and talk about it, because are they really? And the big question is, who are the sources? Now, for me, I gave her a magic 8-ball. One of the responses on there are, my sources say no. And it kind of feels like that. So we're going to start off with this one. So shake up your magic 8-ball, Ashleigh, and what are your sources telling you now? Source: surviving Idaho roommate thought noise was partying. A survivor of the University of Idaho killings allegedly thought the noise resulted from partying, asked the victims to quiet down, and mistook the killer as a guest, a source exclusively told News Nation. The source spoke directly with surviving roommate Dylan Mortensen, who allegedly yelled about the noises heard during the killings because she mistook it for partying. Okay. I've got a little clip. I've got little clips of videos that go along with the story. I'm not going to show you the whole clips. I'm just going to give you kind of the gist of what she has to say.
And let me tell you, it certainly does give a little bit more perspective as to why she didn't call 911 right away, perhaps. We're told that Dylan actually mistook the noises that she'd been hearing. Remember, the affidavit said that around 4 a.m., she could hear some noises up on the third floor, thought it was maybe, Kaylee playing with the dog, Murphy. Didn't think a lot more than that. But ultimately, a few moments later, she heard a lot of noises. She opened her door and effectively kind of yelled out to her roommates, calm down, like cut it out, keep it down. You guys are being loud. I'm trying to sleep. It's late. Thinking that there were roommates horsing around, that perhaps all that noise that she was hearing was just them, being boisterous and still in party mode. It was late Saturday night, early Sunday morning. So she then closed her door and went back to bed, but within minutes, perhaps sort of roused again by noise, opens the door again, was going to say something again to the effect of, keep it down already. It's the middle of the night. And that's when she sees the figure coming towards her. Now, this has been a big bone of contention for a lot of people. Why, if you saw some shadowy, terrifying figure walking towards you, would you just close your door and go back to bed and not call the police? And the characterization to the source who spoke directly with her after the murders is that she didn't think that figure was anything other than just part of the horsing around. Maybe one of the partiers, maybe somebody who was a friend of one of the other roommates that was making all the noise. But it, startled her nonetheless.
All right, so I don't know how this is like a new revelation. And why I say that is that if you remember early on when this happened, and we all were under the impression that Dylan and Bethany were sleeping downstairs, it had already come out that one of the roommates yelled up the stairs, "Shut the F up," because they heard noise. You can go back and watch my videos. We discussed it. But it draws into question the whole statement in the PCA about her frozen shock state and all of that. And I've said in so many videos, partying noise and blood curdling, I'm being murdered noise are going to be completely different. I don't know how somebody getting murdered could possibly sound like people partying, but okay. It does go along, with my thinking, was she really that scared? Because I've discussed it. She saw him walking by. How did she know, what about him was so scary that it froze her in shock? It could have just been anybody walking out the back door. So, like I said, this idea has been out there from very early on. And there's a video on YouTube of this person who's supposed to be the boyfriend of a friend of Dylan on the inner circle or whatever. And basically, this is the story he's telling. And I don't know if he slowed his voice down or whatever. The dude sounds drunk or high or something. But you have to wonder, who is her source? Please tell me it's not this guy that was on YouTube going on about, I'm not going to tell you my name, but my girlfriend's a friend of Dylan and she's on the inner circle. And come on. So you have they really said anything new here? I don't think so. we had all been discussing this right after it happened. So, okay, moving on. Shaking up that ball again. This time it comes up with source. Idaho victim had Bluetooth speaker in her room. Could a Bluetooth speaker provide an additional key piece of evidence in the Idaho quadruple murders case? A source with knowledge of the investigation revealed that Idaho victim Kaylee Gonsalves had a Bluetooth speaker in her room. Oh my goodness, no way, shocker! Again, very early on in the investigation, people had raised the possibility that there was, an Alexa type device or something of that sort in the house. I don't find this earth-shattering that she had a speaker in her room. We have Bluetooth speakers in our house. My daughter has one. I have one. I mean, okay. And I get it. Maybe it could provide information. But again, is this something that we weren't expecting? Is this something that we're really supposed to be, shocked and surprised about? Because this possibility was raised very early on. So let's roll that beautiful bean footage.
Oh, when I said I want to get into the nitty gritty, that's Clark Walton's space. He is a principal forensics and cybersecurity expert for Reliance Forensics. He's board certified in data security. He's a former cybersecurity analyst for the CIA. He's also a former prosecuting attorney. Mwah, chef's kiss. You are perfect, Clark, for this. Well, get me sort of on and off the ledge on this, because I always want to know that there's lots of evidence. If you're going to bring a guy in and charge him with quadruple murder, I want to know that there's lots of really good evidence. This would seem like it would put a guy right in the room alongside the DNA on the knife sheath. But why might it not work? Let's just look at the other side. Why might this not work?
Right. So your phone, as you know, when you're walking around with it, it is trying to talk to the rest of the world any number of ways, right? Bluetooth and your cellular antenna and near field communication. But it doesn't necessarily mean that those attempted handshakes that you just referenced are necessarily being recorded. Not every single action that your phone takes is necessarily going to stick with that phone. If a forensic examiner were to look at it days, weeks, months later, yes, that handshake could have occurred, but is there going to be a record of it on the device that a forensic examiner can pull back?
Okay, so let me take that one step further, and I'm going to just be full disclosure here. I am a complete idiot when it comes to this stuff. I have to hit all the buttons 100 times and then reset just to get something to work. But I do know this, my phone is connected to my Bluetooth speaker, and my phone knows when I go from portrait to landscape, and it keeps that as a record, as I learned in the Murdaugh trial. What if Kaylee's speaker was connected to her phone? Because presumably they're all up on the third floor, right? You're going to have your phone upstairs when you go to bed, even if you're 50 feet away in the other bedroom. Will that perhaps keep a record?
That would keep a record. And so have you ever noticed, you'll spend a night in a hotel and you'll not come back to that hotel for months, and then you'll go back to that hotel and it will automatically connect your phone back to Wi-Fi like you'd been there the day before. Your iPhone does keep a record of what Wi-Fi networks you've connected to, certain information about those networks, the name, the password, the last date and time, importantly, potentially for this case, the last date and time that phone was connected to that Wi-Fi network. And the same works for Bluetooth as well. It keeps a listing of Bluetooth assets that you have connected to at a certain point.
Okay. So like I said, again, is this anything that we haven't already considered or thought of? Not really. Also, pay attention to her shirts. I don't know, she's a nice looking woman, and I don't know who has told her that the only color she can wear is like off-white, eggshell, ecru, whatever color you want to call it. But can we get her a new shirt? Like, can we send her some Steve Squad stuff with some color, some pink, some blue, some purple, something? The lady is literally always wearing the same color. Her whole closet must be that color shirt, I swear. Okay, shake up the ball. This time we get, did first responders contaminate the Idaho murder scene? First responders involved in the Idaho murder case were not wearing protective footwear, a source revealed to News Nation. No shit. I'm pretty sure that I brought that up several times because they didn't know they were responding to a murder scene, right? I mean, they got a call for an unconscious person. They're going to go in there to render aid. We're not dumb. I think we all know this. When you call for police or an ambulance or whatever, and excuse me, they enter your house, they're not like, hold up, I need to put some booties on. No, they just come in and they do their job, right? So, did we need a source to tell us this? I think it's probably a pretty basic assumption that we all made that they weren't wearing protective footwear. And all of the kids that came over that day before 911, they weren't wearing protective footwear either. So they contaminated it even before the first responders got there to contaminate it. Right? Let's go to the tape.
Think about what first responders do. They save lives. They don't go in to investigate crime scenes. They go in to save lives. And they're in a hurry. And evidence gathering and preservation is not their bailiwick. Just isn't. They save lives. And so when the first responders, according to our sourcing, got to the house, they encountered a chaotic situation and were unclear as to exactly who might be still alive or whether there was a danger still lurking, and they went in fast. And for that reason, they tracked snow melting chemicals in from the driveway and parking lot into the home, and thereby potentially disrupted the retrieval of footprint evidence. So I want to bring in Larry Kublinski, who is a forensic scientist, professor emeritus of forensic science at John Jay College of Criminal Justice, and one of the smartest guys I work with on a typical day in this business. Okay, Doc, so this is not uncommon. As sad and frustrating as it feels, this is kind of Tuesday in crime fighting and the processing of a scene, isn't it?
Absolutely. Ashleigh, you explained it very, very clearly and very well.
Okay. So, I mean, is this surprising, shocking new information to you? Because it's just really not to me. And like I said, the kids that showed up at the house before 911 was called already contaminated the scene well before the first responders got there. So again, I ask, have they really said anything new here? And why do we need to continue this every night? This story is going to stay alive, whether your sources are bringing us this great exclusive info or not. If you have something new and relevant that's been vetted and verified, then by all means, bring it to me. But these don't feel like vetted, verified tips. I could call her and tell her all of this. I could have called her and told her this from the beginning. You could have, right? Okay, we're going to shake this ball up again. Sources: Idaho victim who was killed last fought back. New details. Remember that. New details from sources close to News Nation shed light on how the Idaho college killings unfolded. No, this is not new. This is not new information. One of the very first videos I did on this case, I included part of an interview that Xana's parents had given with, I believe it was an Arizona news station, and her dad talked about the defensive wounds that she had. He said that she had put up a hell of a fight, and I'm pretty sure Steve Gonsalves said that there was a hell of a battle that happened downstairs. We have heard this. We heard this from Xana's dad right after the coroner came out and gave her report on TV. We heard this because we heard they were asleep when they were attacked, and then we heard that Xana had these defensive wounds, and we were like, oh, well, was she asleep? Did they wake her up? You know, it started this whole line of questions. We have known this. We have known this, that she fought back. But, you know, Banfield wants to bring us all of these gruesome, gory details about the defensive wounds, right? But this is not new breaking information. It's not. So why are you qualifying it as new details? So here's the video for this.
I want to begin with some breaking news on the Idaho murder case. A couple of sources with knowledge of the investigation have told News Nation some details that up until now we did not know. Let me lay a few of these details out, but I do want to warn you that this is graphic information and it is uncomfortable to hear this because we're talking about innocent kids who were killed in that home back in October. And not only that, this is evidence that likely will come out in court at some point. Whether it will be germane to who the killer is or not, that remains to be seen. But it could be evidence nonetheless. With that in mind, let me let you know what these sources have told News Nation. Number one, they told us that the victims, Kaylee Gonsalves and Madison Mogan, were killed first, and they confirmed that Ethan Chapin and Xana Kernodle were killed on the second floor afterwards. And these are some of the other details that they have released. They said that Ethan Chapin was killed in the doorway of Xana Kernodle's room before the killer set upon Xana. The sources say that it appeared Ethan had stepped partly into the hallway where the attack may have begun. These sources also say that Ethan Chapin suffered a slash to the neck. But I have to say that both of these details are in direct conflict with what the coroner had originally told us right here on this program exclusively. And also, they conflict directly with what police have said as well. And those two facts that are in conflict are that all of the victims were in their beds, according to police and the coroner. And according to the coroner, all of the injuries were stab wounds and not slash wounds.
Okay, again, if you remember early on, way back, if you go in my videos where I had the diagrams of the layouts and possible scenarios of like the interaction with the killer, we had heard that Ethan was found outside of the room in a hallway, whatever. Again, that's not new information. The fighting back, that's not new information. This is all things we have been knowing for months. For months. And she said, this is evidence that will probably come out at trial. Okay, let it come out at trial. Why do you need to like run with this graphic description? I didn't even play the description of Xana's wounds. Like I said, it's borderline exploitative. Just like the interview with Xana's mom was. And it's just, it's right on the edge of too much. It's not new. It's not significant. Who is this helping? That's my big question. Who does this benefit besides Ashleigh, Banfield, and News Nation? Who is this benefiting, putting this information out there? And, constantly saying, well, this conflicts with what was in the probable cause. This conflicts with what this person said. So now what you're before trial even starts, going to plant reasonable doubt in everybody's minds, I guess. You can't trust what the police were saying in that probable cause because that's not what Dylan said, because my source said that she said this. I mean, I don't know. It feels almost counterproductive. It really does. So, one last time, let's shake up this ball. And what are your sources telling you now, Ashleigh? Sources: Idaho victims Ethan and Xana found by best friend. Sources with knowledge of the University of Idaho killing investigation told News Nation's Banfield that Ethan Chapin's best friend found Ethan and Xana Kernodle's bodies. Again, this isn't really news. I mean, I guess we didn't know absolutely that it was his best friend that found them. But we have kind of been able to put together that whoever was called over there, the kids that showed up before first responders, found them. And that's what led to the 911 call. Not really new information. Not super relevant. I don't know how. I mean, I could see in trial, he could be a witness that I went in and found them in this position and, this is what I saw kind of thing. Because, they very well may have been moved by first responders trying to, check them for signs of life and what have you. So if he was first on the scene, he can testify to what position they were in when he found them. But how does this help us to know this information? It really, in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't change anything. It doesn't change anything. Whether it was his best friend, her best friend, a fraternity brother, Bethany. I mean, it doesn't change the outcome, right? So here's some on that.
A lot of things, not everything, but the probable cause affidavit, some of the police reporting, and the news conferences, that's given us a small picture. But what we haven't known is what happened prior to the first responders arriving on the scene. And tonight I can tell you. You have heard that the 911 call was made from a surviving roommate's cell phone. But we can now tell you who it was who made that call. I'm not going to name the person, but it was Ethan's best friend who made the 911 call. And that's because it was Ethan's best friend who made the discovery of Xana and Ethan's bodies. And that is a very tragic and sad detail to report. Up until now, it had been an assumption that there was maybe an unconscious person because it was a guess that there was someone behind the door who wasn't answering a bedroom door. Now we can tell you that it was Ethan's best friend who had been called over that morning and made the discovery and took Ethan's pulse. Also called out to get 911 on the phone. It is more than likely that the phone that was used to call 911 was surviving roommate Dylan Mortenson's cell phone. You have probably heard up until now that it was an unconscious person that the dispatch said over the radio. But that's not unusual because when there's confusion, it's standard protocol, according to an article that came out recently in Airmail. Standard protocol, if there's confusion, just to skip the necessities of getting clarity and just dispatch the first responders for an unconscious person, regardless of what the actual situation is. So for anyone getting caught up on an unconscious person, probably not a good idea, given the fact that that's just sort of a standard description for get moving. We need people on the location. Again, this is multiple sources tonight with knowledge of the investigation telling us about who made the discovery of Ethan's body and then, of course, of Xana's body. What I can tell you is who made the discovery of Maddie and Kaylee on the 3rd floor. I'm not sure if it was any of the other kids who were called over. What is, interesting about this whole scenario that played out that morning was that kids came over to the home and then 911 was called. So who knows if there was any knowledge of the carnage that had taken place in that home before the kids came over. I mean, it's college, right? It's Sunday morning after a fun Saturday night. And maybe, just maybe, kids were coming over to, get together and go out for a Sunday brunch. But some kids who are unidentified at this time went over to the house that morning, and it was Ethan's best friend who made that discovery and took Ethan's pulse and yelled for them to call 911 and ultimately got on the phone on Dylan Mortenson's phone and talked to the 911 operators. I want to bring in News Nation senior national correspondent Bryan Enton. Bryan has been at the forefront of reporting this story. It's such an uncomfortable detail, but it is one piece of the puzzle that we've been trying to figure out in terms of why it's so complicated, that scene the morning of the murders.
Yeah, so much of this has been confusing based on the reports we've gotten from police. There have been so many holes and things that they haven't shared. I think beginning with your exclusive reporting last week, things started to make a little bit more sense in terms of surviving roommate Dylan and the fact that she may have thought that there were noises coming from upstairs, but not necessarily noises that meant that something bad was happening or that a murder was happening. That started to explain why she may have not initially called 911, in the middle of the night. Your exclusive reporting sort of shed light on that. And now I think this sort of continues to, again, put the pieces together now to know that there were people who came to the house that morning. And it would make sense, what you said about the unconscious person, that may have just been a categorization that the 911 call was put under. But certainly tragic, as you said, to think that Ethan's best friend, took the pulse.
So I get it. News reporters, news stations, even YouTube creators, we count on sources. And sources aren't and sometimes can't be revealed. I get that. But you like to think that when you're seeing these things that you can trust it, that these are valid, vetted sources, right? And nothing of what she's saying, like I said, is of really much consequence or earth-shattering or new or anything like that. And then as far as who made the 911 call and things like that, there's a reason they didn't release that. I don't know what it is, but there's a reason. And now I guess it's out there. I don't know. Just, you need to let me know how you feel about this. Like I said, I understand the need for sources, but I'm going to go over some of the tweets that are out there about Banfield and her sources and how people are feeling, and I think it'll give you a pretty good idea of where I'm coming from. So this first tweet is, I think of Ashleigh Banfield's reporting like a tabloid. She obviously sensationalizes everything. Her interview with Xana's mother was bad on many levels. I have not watched her since. Total turnoff. And that's the thing. This is starting to feel like the tabloids that you see when you're waiting to check out at the store. Breaking news, something stupid. It's like What's she gonna come up with tonight? That, Murphy was in another room? Yeah, we know that. I don't know. So, people are getting this tabloid vibe from her. And this is supposed to be like a legitimate news source, not like a tabloid reporting show. It's not TMZ. It's not Inside Edition. This is, where people are going to get facts, to get reliable information on whatever story. Now this is the whole thing. So this person says, why are you afraid Bryan Kohberger might be found innocent? You people are pathetic. Dylan Mortensen. Petition launched to have public defender Ann Taylor removed from Bryan Kohberger's Idaho murders case for conflict of interest. That quote is from Ashleigh Banfield. Ashleigh Banfield apparently started a petition on, I guess it's change.org. I'm not 100% sure, but to get Ann Taylor removed for conflict of interest. And a lot of people are put off by this because she is a news reporter and, supposed to be unbiased, yada, yada. So why is she campaigning to get her removed? So after that, then these tweets started. Somebody started a change.org, signed the petition against News Nation and Ashleigh Banfield. Please take a minute and read this and sign to hold journalists responsible. News Nation and Banfield News Nation, for instance, need to be investigated. I agree with this 100. Journalism, accurate reporting, Ashleigh Banfield exploiting addicts for views. So now there's a petition on change.org that you can sign that, it's basically about ethics and journalism and things like that, and is kind of in response to her reporting as of late, the Xana mom interview, the petition to get Ann Taylor removed, and things like that. And then we have this one. Watching true crime news directly from Ashleigh Banfield takes the fun out of following true crime stories. It feels like watching a caricature of National Enquirer news show. I would rather receive the news from Brian Enton on location for updates. His demeanor is respectful. Again, comparing her... Sorry. Sorry, the wind probably blew or something. But they're comparing her again to a tabloid, the National Enquirer. Wreck. And it's upsetting. Like I said, you want to know that you can count on these people to bring you the truth. Or, as close to the truth as they can. And if you want to see a story sensationalized, you're not going to turn on a news station, right? They're just supposed to give you the facts and let you kind of make up your own mind, right? You're not turning it on because you want to hear this sensationalized version of the story, generally. This one says, I've completely stopped paying attention to Ashleigh Banfield and Jennifer Coffendoffer. I can read everything they pass off as their own thoughts from others on Twitter and Reddit. They don't care about facts anymore. And yeah, a lot of what they've been reporting, these sources, stories, these exclusive details, are on Reddit, they're on Facebook, they're on Twitter, and people are legitimately questioning, are her sources Reddit, TikTok, Twitter, is that a legitimate source now? And it's honestly sad to see a reporter lose credibility over stuff like this. It's sad. This one says, Banfield read the letter word for word that the TikToker had. Would be the same source. Again, a true source would not go to a TikToker with 187 followers. Pretty much what I just said. Hush. I'm sorry. We're almost done. And then Jennifer Coffenduffer did a survey on her Twitter. Do you believe Ashleigh Banfield should continue to report information provided to her by her sources regarding the Idaho 4? And the final results were 47% said yes and 53% said no. So no was the majority, but almost half of the people were like, yeah, sure, keep doing it. And as long as that's the trend, she probably will. She probably will continue to do these stories with these sources that are basically just rehashing stuff that we already know, that's already out there, that we can read on just about any social media platform. And again, did you notice the shirts? Every night, different shirt, same color. We need to send Ashleigh something colorful. She needs some color in her world. But let me know what you think. I know, like I said, it was a little different, a little sassy, a little snarky, but I just wanted to get your opinion. Kind of like Coffenduffer's survey. Where do you stand with this? Is this a good thing? Is this a bad thing? Is it helping anybody? Let me know what you think. Let me know in the comments. Again, I want to ask if you could please like, share, subscribe. We're trying to get up to 2,000 by my birthday on April 26th. Subscribe for Steve. He's not yelling it today, but yesterday he was yelling for everyone to subscribe. Give it a thumbs up. It helps it in the algorithm to push it out there to more people so they can see this. They can see my channel. Subscribe. It's completely free and it does help me out. Gets me out there in the algorithm for more people to see. And if you really like us, feel free to join membership and become part of the Steve Squad. We would love to have you. So thank y'all for spending a little bit of your afternoon with me. I'm going to go back and finish watching the Murdaugh trial when they come back from lunch. And leave me your comments. I can't wait to discuss this with you. Everybody have a great afternoon. And as always, I will see you all in the next one.